Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fintech Combine. I am your host, Kris Kovacs, and this is the series where we talk with and sometimes about community-based institutions, their digital and business transformation projects, and we meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and fintechs that make it all possible. On this episode, we meet with Jacob Bennett, co-founder of Crux Analytics, about his firm's work with community-based institutions and their efforts to support small businesses across the country. So if you're ready, let's suit up and get out on the field. Jacob, I want to welcome you back to the Fintech Combine. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to see you again.
Good to see you as well. When we last spoke, we were getting ready for Venture Tech and about your presentation there. And I was so just blown away by what you guys are building. I wanted you to come back and have the full conversation with us. So why don't we start with, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your company, Crux Analytics.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Jacob Bennett. I'm one of the co-founders of Crux Analytics. We're pushing being 2 years old as a company. Really what we're focused on is elevating the relationship between bankers and small businesses. The sort of inception point of the business was from my own personal experience running a previous company, which for all intents and purposes was a highly functioning small business. And we worked with a lot of other small businesses to bring projects to life for large clients. And so I had seen firsthand how difficult many aspects of running a small business are. But most importantly, I think for this conversation is really how strained that relationship can often be with a financial institution. And it just didn't make sense to me that we live in a world where it's a pretty commonly known fact that small business is the single most significant pillar of our economy, any way you slice it. But at the same time, small businesses ubiquitously struggle to access quality banking services, whether it's credit or checking accounts or treasury services, whatever it might be. They really need a kind of trusted advisor and someone who's there to be their financial services provider to help them thrive. And so we started Crux, and the goal of Crux is to really bring that relationship into a new era of prosperity. And we're really focused on the banker side of that equation today, to help bankers achieve better outcomes, ultimately do that more efficiently and also with lower risk. And in doing so, hopefully opening access to more small businesses to access the banking sector.
Tell me a little bit about who is your ideal customer at Crux?
Right now, we're really focused on community-focused financial institutions. So working with credit unions, community banks, some small regional banks. If you dig to the root of it, the institutions that have been the fuel for the small business economy since the beginning of the US and beyond that in other places, these are the financial institutions that are really powering small businesses across the country and have been key partners to small businesses. But fundamentally, the way that they bank them hasn't changed for 100 plus years. Right. And so that's really what we're trying to pull forward and then push into the future.
What are the typical kinds of services and engagements you would have with a community-based institution?
So in terms of how we work with them?
Yeah.
So we're a SaaS platform, essentially. So we're a full analytics platform. We're built for bankers. And so, our typical users have full access to our platform and they are using us to augment their daily tasks. And so if you think about what a business banker spends their day doing, it tends to be pretty evenly split between business development, driving new membership for credit union, new customers, also deepening existing relationships, aligning new products, helping that business thrive. And then the other side of the equation is sort of on active portfolio management, both from a risk perspective, but also from an ongoing relationship building perspective. And so what we've built really helps a banker be the best partner they can possibly be, understand how they can align products to a business's needs as effectively as possible, but also have full transparency into any particular business that they might be working with, so that when they go and sit down at the table, either literally or digitally, with a business owner, they are talking to them about their specific business and not just kind of giving them generic industry insights that anyone can Google.
Should the bank or credit union already have a well-established small business strategy, or can you help them form that and then execute on that plan?
We have definitely seen both cases.
Okay.
There's a couple of notable customers currently who are pretty early in their journey in the business banking world. Obviously, the credit union space in general is sort of relatively new to it. There are some notable outliers there, but we sort of see two flavors of credit union, if you will. One who have just started to dip their toe in the water. They're getting a bit more comfortable and they're looking to push a bit more aggressively in the business banking space. The other, who are maybe a bit ahead in their journey, who have been banking small businesses for several years, really feel comfortable with it, and they're focused on kind of growing to a next level of maturity. That often goes down the route of a more robust suite of treasury services, some more complex products that they can attract a more mature, larger small business with. So yeah, we work on both sides of the equation. Have some that are brand new, have some that have been only banking business for the last 150 years.
So you can help you if somebody has an existing strategy, you can help them at a customer level talk about what's the next best product for this customer or the next best service that they are likely to need. And at the same point, you could work with the institution to say, here's the next best product you need to offer everybody.
Yeah, so our focus is really on the former today.
Okay.
But certainly, as we have these conversations and have continued to sort of deepen our understanding of the total landscape and how it's shifting, we are having more and more of those secondary conversations to help, inform, lend an opinion. We don't tout ourselves as the single expert in the business banking product space. But we've certainly seen enough at this point to be able to give an informed opinion. But yeah, we're really giving, in a nutshell, a banker an understanding on a business level of when should I engage with this business, what products should I come to the table with, what is the risk that surrounds this particular business, and how can I really be proactive in driving that relationship forward, both to serve that business's needs, but also to help achieve institutional growth.
So tell me a little bit about the decision you made to actually start Crux Analytics, right? You're co-founder of it. How did you make it? Because you were working with tell me a little bit about where you were working before. And then tell me about your decision to actually start the company and how you went through and made that decision.
Yeah, so prior to Crux, I was running a small innovation consultancy called Collab for 7 years. I was running that with two great partners. We did a lot of different things there. The general theme was we helped people bring ideas from concepts to market in many different forms. Did a lot of very traditional product development, a lot of in the experiential marketing space, kind of ran the gamut across industries, across business size, worked with the Johnson & Johnsons and Paramounts of the world, all the way down through venture-backed startups. And so had seen and touched and done a lot of different things. There are a number of factors, and it always comes down to timing. And I think the thing that really gave me the initial nudge down the rabbit hole was COVID and lockdown, and everyone was seeing the disproportionate effect that it had on small businesses. My previous business was experiencing that. And so I really started to dig into what the small business economy looked like, really honed in on this aspect of the relationship with the financial services provider. And the timing was just the right alignment. I was starting to consider what I was going to do next for various reasons. But it was a combination of timing and not my first rodeo, and you kind of get that itch, and you try and put it away for a little bit, and it keeps coming back and keeps popping to mind, and eventually you sort of have to trust your gut and run with it.
So yours was a case where you actually you were experiencing this as a business owner and said, "Hey, there's a problem here. There's a gap. I think I can solve it." And that gave you the kind of the seed or the idea for Crux Analytics.
Yeah, exactly. It was firsthand experience, and when we started, we were really focused on the lending piece of it and access to capital for small businesses. And what we learned very quickly was that the sort of root of the problem primarily lies in just a lack of transparency across the small business economy in many different ways. And because of that problem, the solution was actually much bigger than just lending. It really, encompassed that total relationship between a financial institution and a small business. And so we kind of expanded where we were looking and how we were looking at the problem, but also became a lot more precise about targeting, that one-to-one relationship as well.
And you've got some exciting developments coming up this year. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
We do. We have a lot of exciting developments this year. So we're actually in final testing for a complete rebuild of our entire platform. So we launched Crux, like I said, almost 2 years ago. Our first kind of complete product rolled out beginning of 2024. And we spent the majority of last year really getting it in people's hands, learning as much as we possibly could, iterating on top of it. And I think ended in a position that looks very familiar to many early stage companies, where we sort of had this product that worked pretty well, but was very much held together with tape and glue. And around September, kind of hit the point of diminishing returns and kicked off a project internally to completely rebuild from scratch. And so with that rebuild, there are a few important features. One is that we're going to be a lot more robust and able to push for a much greater level of scale. One thing that comes along with that is a few really exciting new features that we're releasing. So being able to not just provide complete transparency around a business, but also helping a banker be very efficient and accurate in taking action in driving that relationship forward. So identifying things like the best time to actually engage with that business, those product alignments, understanding very accurately what risk and opportunity looks like for this business and how that's changing over time. So really not just a complete picture, but also the ability to take action on that. So the official launch date for that is January 27th. We actually already have a few early users live on that who are acting as beta testers for that as we continue to test. And so, we're going to be pushing that out, have a number of exciting new customers starting right after launch as well. So
that's
big
great
year for us, and we have a pretty ambitious pipeline of new features that we're going to be building this year as well. So big undertaking, but very exciting.
Would it be fair, based on your education, to call you an expert in product management?
God, I'm uncomfortable with being called an expert in anything. I think my background has taught me a lot, and kind of I see myself as being knowledgeable enough in many different things to be dangerous. But also, probably more importantly, knowledgeable enough to understand who to bring in and when the right time to bring someone in is. And I think a lot of my past success has really been predicated on that. And so, the first example of that with Crux is my co-founder, who happens to be my brother. I kind of, I sent myself down this rabbit hole and became obsessed with this problem, and very quickly realized I needed someone with world-class technical skills to actually build out this vision, and happened to be the youngest brother, and my oldest brother is a world-class systems and algorithms engineer. And so I started sort of, not so subtly dropping a few things on his plate and asking him for some input and opinions. And eventually it was like, listen, I think this is something really compelling, something that's worth our time to really focus on. And happily he agreed. So I don't know if I'd call myself an expert in product management. I certainly come originally from the product side of things. I thought I was going to be an engineer at first, and then realized I didn't have the patience for it, and got a comprehensive design education, and dabbled a little bit in business school and a few other things. So I think I'm a really good translator between different functions, different roles in an organization, both internally and externally.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
so that's wonderful. I was going to dig into this question a little bit around your decision to advance your platform, right? In order to, like you said, hey, we kind of built that. We were happy with where we were going. We knew we wanted to be able to expand it, do more.
Yeah.
How do you make the decision as a product manager between kind of innovating incrementally on the service or system or product that you've built versus coming out with a whole new version that says, hey, I've baked in all the lessons I've learned.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go do more things. How do you weigh? There's a lot of entrepreneurs who watch this. How do you weigh and make that decision? What were the factors that you considered?
I think there are always a number of different levers, right? And I think the first thing is you have to be incredibly rigorous and structured with how you're approaching product development, but also business growth in general. And everything to me starts with the problem or the need that we're solving, and how can we always be better at solving that need. And then as you progress, there are sort of secondary, tertiary needs that you identify that are related, and how can we start to expand to cover those things and kind of grow into this bigger universe. And so for us, it was really a simple choice. We had built this initial product. It was starting to solve the need that we had identified. And we realized that to really tackle it 100% head on, we needed to rebuild. We needed to make it more user-friendly. We needed to have it be more robust and more scalable and more flexible. And so we didn't, when I say we rebuilt, we didn't start from scratch and throw out the playbook. We had spent 9 months learning and continuing to build and continuing to iterate. So we really took that strong foundation and brought it into a new platform and did it in a way that allows us to continue to really aggressively build on top of that. So it's really driven by, solving that base level need.
How important was the initial work you did with your early clients on helping inform the priorities for that redesign? Talk a little bit about how you got to where those new requirements, needs, priorities identified.
Yeah, that's everything, right? You can build whatever you want, and there's plenty of imaginative people out there who could build amazing things. But at the end of the day, if there isn't a problem you're solving or a need that you're solving, you could build the most beautiful thing on the planet and no one's going to touch it, right? And so the early feedback that we got and the early partners that we gained were really, the most instrumental thing in driving the growth of Crux over the last year. And we were lucky enough to align with some really knowledgeable individuals and to work with some really innovative institutions who were gracious enough to kind of give us active, honest feedback into what we were building. And, I sort of semi-joke that being told all the ways that your product sucks is probably the most useful thing you can hear early on. And there's a lot of really nice people who don't want to, tell you have an ugly baby, essentially. But the ones who did really enable us to grow very rapidly, to iterate very quickly, and to develop some really differentiated features. And so, those partners are still with us today, and we're gaining more by the week at this point, which is great. So yeah, it was everything. And for any entrepreneurs listening, I would say you need to find those partners and be tenacious about finding them. Find the people who will tell you the truth and not just give you a thumbs up and send you on your way.
That's right. And in fact, in our business, sometimes they'll invest in you, right? Do you have investments from any of your clients, any of your customers?
Our customers, no, not yet. We're actually kicking off a seed round in the coming weeks. So something we've started to talk to a few about. We have raised investment and have some pretty big individuals within the industry who have jumped on board and who have been amazing advisors in addition to being investors. So, certainly anyone listening from the industry knows that this industry is pretty unique, and there are unique challenges that come with it. And having people who have been through that journey before and who understand what this industry looks like is definitely a game changer.
Talk a little bit about how you find advisors, right? Because we're actually going through this actually in Constellation right now, right? We're having this conversation around finding advisors, the right kind of groups of people to work with. What was your strategy or your philosophy around engaging folks to be potential advisors to your company?
Great question. I think I've sort of always had this philosophy throughout, other companies, and as my career has developed and I've learned more. It is very much like dating in every single way. You don't meet someone on day one and get married to them, right? It's really about building relationships, understanding, is there sort of aligned value here? Is there aligned culture between us? Those are really the biggest things. And I think you also have to be, kind, but a little bit cutthroat as well when it comes to advisors. You have to understand, what is this person coming in for? What is the value that they're bringing? What world do they open up that we don't have access to otherwise? Right. Not to be too jargony, but essentially, what are the KPIs that we're measuring against this advisor in quite a scientific way? And if for whatever reason they are not meeting expectations, you need to be honest about that. And so, it's really, really core, fundamental relationship building.
That's a great. I like that idea. What are the core APIs for them? Tell me a little bit about your team. How big is your team? Did you? You're from England, so yes. Are you international? Are you local here in the States? What does your team look like?
Yeah, we're all US based. We're still in the small but mighty phase. So we're a powerful team of 3 full time. It's myself, my brother, who's my co-founder, and one fantastic full time engineer. And we have also an enviable cast of contract engineers as well, who have been helping us grow. And like I said, also, would certainly count our advisors and some experts in the space who have been working with us from the beginning as part of that team, and very instrumental. So small, mighty, I very much have the philosophy of you hire when there's a full-time position to hire for. You don't sort of do it in the reverse and hire someone and then figure out what they're going to do. Right. So we're actually well beyond that phase, which is why we're starting to fundraise. We have multiple people at way more than capacity at this point. So we are going to be hiring imminently, particularly focused on the engineering side.
Very cool. Very cool. Tell me a little bit about how you look at your business, right? This is one of the fascinating things to me about analytics companies, right?
Yeah.
How do you look at your business and how do you measure success? I mean, there's certainly the financial success, right? Sure. ARR is going up and we're seeing additional revenue and things like that. But how do you know, how do you know your product's on target, your team's on target, things are working well?
Yeah, I think starting with the long-term vision, the sort of not so secret about Crux is we're building for financial institutions, but we're really trying to help small businesses. Again, the foundation of Crux was built on my own experience running a small business, and our goal ultimately is, today to help financial institutions, and in the not too distant future to grow beyond that, help other entities that are engaged in the small business economy. And so really for us, the thing that drives us is that in our success lies the success of potentially millions of small business owners across the country. And my hope and my goal is that one day we look back and see access to key services expanded across the board for small businesses because of the work that we've done. That's really first and foremost for us. There are certainly steps along the way and financial goals that we have set, and goals that we've put in place with our customers and with our technical team and with our product and all those good things. And all of those are really a stepping stone to that long-term vision for us.
Were there, as you're going through this journey towards success, were there particular challenges you had to overcome in order to get to where you are? And how did you approach those?
For Crux in particular, for me personally,
well, whichever one you're willing to talk about, Jacob. Like we can roll out the 5 cents for psychiatric help if you need it.
We might need longer for that one. That's a good question. I mean, listen, there are always going to be challenges. I think if you're doing something worthwhile, it's going to be difficult. And I think that's part of how you know you're on the right track, right? If it was too easy, there's probably a reason why someone hasn't done it before.
That's right.
So yes, there's certainly been challenges. We've kind of grown up as a company in a pretty challenging landscape for both our customer base, for fundraising, for all sorts of things. And, my mentality has always been what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And that's a personal mentality as well as a business mentality. And so, I kind of welcome those challenges and I kind of thrive a little bit in a, maybe not a sadistic way, but a slightly punishing way of overcoming those challenges. I think they make us better and stronger as a result.
Yeah.
So, nothing so groundbreaking that other founders in the space haven't faced in the last couple of years. But I think what I've seen in the past, building previous companies and having the ability to work with a lot of other early stage founders and see other companies grow, is that in many cases the companies that are just more tenacious and scrappier are the ones who ultimately win. Sometimes there are great companies that have great visions that just don't stick it out and they never come to fruition. And maybe there are some that aren't such groundbreaking ideas that are just really, have a lot of grit and kind of get to a great height. It's really a key part of building the business is just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Grit is an important part of this business, right? You have to be born with it to have this job for sure. Tell me a little about what do you think the future vision, what's your future vision? It's co-founders as leaders. We're called upon to create a vision for the company, right? What's your future vision for Crux?
So we've defined 3 visions along 3 different hurdles. Our first hurdle is, like I said, really focused on that banker business relationship and making that relationship as prosperous as it possibly can be, initially focused on the banker side of the equation. The second vision that we have is really to remove the gap that exists today entirely between small businesses and financial institutions and some other sort of secondary industries. And what that means functionally is probably it's a when, not if, we release a version of Crux tailored more towards the small business side of the equation. And then our ultimate vision for the company is really to be the paradigm of intelligence for the small business economy. So we envision a world where every entity, whether it's individuals, large companies, financial institutions, and beyond, every entity that touches a small business economy should have a Crux login and should be using Crux to make sure they have full visibility into the small business economy.
Very cool. What do you think the future of artificial intelligence is going to bring to kind of your work at Crux Analytics?
That's a good question. There's everyone is using the words artificial intelligence, machine learning.
Right.
People are talking about agents and this and that, and that's all fantastic. And frankly, I think any company on the planet that's actively building right now is using all of those things in one way or another. We certainly are. I think our mentality as a company is we are using those technologies, in some cases developing technologies, but that is not that is not our value as a company. That's not who we are. When you talk about AI, to me, it is a tool to be used. And as with any tool, if you use it incorrectly, it's not going to be particularly effective. And that means you have to understand how you're using it, why you're using it. Same thing with building the company. What is the output that I'm achieving with this, right?
Right.
And so as these technologies evolve, I think companies across the board are going to be more efficient. They are going to find perfect use cases for what these tools can do. Those use cases are probably going to expand and probably mean you have to hopefully not fire, just hire fewer people.
Yeah.
We're developing software. There are some amazing AI tools that help you write code a lot faster and a lot better, for example. And so these are really effective tools to be used as you build your company, and as they evolve, they're going to get more sophisticated and they're going to help do that faster and better.
And what you guys provide is, my sense is you're providing that guidance about how to use the data that it's coming back, right? And so that you have subject matter expertise in that service, in that concept, based on what you've done with others and what you've used and done for yourself. And that's very difficult, if ever, that AI is going to be able to replace that kind of value.
Yeah, listen, like I said, we are using it's weird to say, but traditional AI tools at this point.
Yeah.
We are built on a machine learning platform or a machine learning foundation. The outputs that we are achieving, the value that we are driving, is very much enabled in many ways by these technologies.
Sure.
But again, there has to be a reason. There has to be a correct use case for it.
Right.
We could feed a bunch of raw data into an LLM and say, tell us about this business. And you should try and do that and see what you get out. We're figuring out how can we use these tools to best drive the value that we're trying to drive. And, we kind of talk about three different levels of value that we're providing our customer today. The first is being able to access complete information really efficiently and make sure that information is accurate, up to date. And that's information that, bankers are often looking for anyway, but it's just very time consumptive, very manual for them to access it. So we're kind of serving that up on a plate to them. The second level is then really where some of those tools start to kick in. And that's how do we provide them with knowledge that would be very difficult for them to acquire otherwise and have a much more complete picture, right? And so that's where we started to do a lot more deep analytics on that information, that raw data. And then the final step for us is how can we actually help them be a proactive partner, actually take action with that small business, and sort of connect the dots for them so that they can really move as fast as possible, but also in a way that doesn't compromise on risk and helps them grow their institution.
If you had advice for other startup entrepreneurs, what would that be?
There's probably a lot. I think, honestly, the biggest one is what I mentioned before. It's that, more often than not, perseverance wins. You're doing this because you're someone who hopefully is comfortable sort of staring into an abyss and finding value within it, and sort of, shining a light into it. And so, you got to trust your gut. You got to stay true to your instincts and keep pressing forward and roll with the punches and find the better path and all of that good stuff. I think you have to be honest and rigorous with yourself, with your business. The more that you can kind of quantify and qualify what you're building and why you're building it, the better. And I also think, like I said at the very beginning, I found personally that the things I've been successful in are really predicated on knowing what you know, but then also making sure you bring in the right people and defer to people who know more than you about certain things. And I think whether that's advisors or employees or investors or customers or whatever it might be, when I think a lot about the culture that we're trying to build at Crux and sort of who we are and what our values are. I've often used the phrase sort of audacity without arrogance. And what I mean by that, and it's a pretty thin line that you have to walk.
Yeah.
You have to have the audacity to say, I'm going to do something new and kind of change things that maybe have been in place, in our case, for 100 plus years. But do so in a way that doesn't bring arrogance to the table and still allows you to hear important things from people who know more than you. I think that's really important.
Very cool. Very cool. If somebody wants to get more information about working with Crux, how do they reach you? How do they reach the company?
Yeah, best place to start is our website, which is just cruxanalytics.com. You can email me, which is jacob@cruxanalytics.com. That's the best place to start. We actually released a white paper towards the end of the year, kind of synthesizing a lot of what we've learned about the small business banking space and what it has looked like today and what it's going to look like in the future. So anyone who's interested can give that a read and shoot us a line, and we'd love to talk to them.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to see you again.
This podcast is sponsored by Constellation. We're empowering community financial institutions with innovative digital solutions, powered by Fintech, driven by your roadmap. Join us as we navigate the future of digital banking together. For more information on how we can be your partner for digital transformation, visit www.constellation.coop.
What a great conversation with Jacob. I feel like I learned so much from these, and I hope you do too. If you do, like and subscribe on your platform of choice. Check out our LinkedIn channel for some additional content, and we will see you next time.